CEOs are known to waste up to 25% of their time, which is insanely valuable, due to poor scheduling practices. I want you to know you're not alone. You finish the day and you feel like you literally got nothing important done. You were so busy, you were hacked schedule-wise, but yet accomplishment-wise, moving the needle-wise, being productive-wise, you didn't get much done. You don't need to be a victim to your schedule in order to grow your business. Your mindset being that if you're not on with clients, oh, I'm free, I'm not doing anything. No, you are doing something. You're building your business. There's no space. There's no space for innovation. There's no space for planning. There's no space for strategizing the next thing. Just because it's something that you've normalized doesn't mean that it has to stay this way. You will put your clients on this pedestal that anything they want or say or request comes before your business. And I'm going to be honest, 9 times out of 10, your business is showing signs of that behavior. Hello, and welcome back to the Ambitious Podcast. So if you've pressed play on today's episode, that is because you, like me, want to know how to better understand, what do I do with my schedule? How do I optimize my time? What do I need to do to be the utmost productive to be able to scale and grow my business? And I'm someone who's been trying to really learn all of the strategies around scheduling and productivity for the last several years of scaling my business. And I want to share with you some of the insights of what I've learned. And also with this, some signs that told me I really needed a new approach because the way that I was doing things was not going to work. And so really today is an episode for you if you feel like you look at your calendar and you ask yourself, I've got all this on here, but I don't know that it actually fits my current priorities. Or you have tasks on your calendar that you get stuck in the busy work and you get stuck in the fires of the day to day, but you also know they're not really helping you to step into the CEO that you want to ultimately be. And you feel like you're kind of having this, Truman Show experience of reliving the same week, the same day over and over, getting stuck doing tasks in areas of the business you don't want to be in anymore, that you don't want to be doing. And with this, many people have this big aha moment with their schedule when they go to take a week to step away, to go on vacation, or sometimes it's a forced week away for a personal matter. And you go to take that space and you feel like you can't, because if you step away, something in the business is going to break. So it leads us to this ultimate reflection place of, if I can't step away, and if I feel even when I'm there, I'm being controlled by my schedule, who really controls my time? Is it me? Is it my inbox? Is it my team? Is it my clients? And so today we're going to be helping you to really unpack a couple core things. Number one, I'm going to break down a couple of the different signs that help you to understand whether your schedule and the way that you're operating with your business right now is actually dialed in to a level that it will help you scale. We're also going to talk about the different steps that you can go through to dialing in and creating what I kind of call your CEO schedule, which means the schedule that's not only going to help you with your lifestyle and the things that are happening in your life for you, but they're also going to be things that you can take and integrate to help you to further scale your business. And in these steps, I want to also let you know that I'm going to be sharing stats with you that help to prove the science around why some of the things that we're talking about are impactful and why they work. And most importantly, I'm going to share with you a couple different entrepreneurs that are some of the most successful business owners and CEOs today. And when I mean successful, I mean financially, to the tune of things like Oprah, Jeff Bezos, and what they do in their schedule and in their productivity that you can learn from. And so with this, I really want to first say that if just as a check-in, if you are somebody who's been listening to the podcast day in, day out, you tune in every single week for our guest episodes, you tune into the solo episodes like today, I just want to say thank you. We most recently launched our Ambitious Network. I have honestly no words. Part of the launch of that, we did an incredible giveaway for an amazing woman who ended up winning. And as part of that, we asked for your feedback on what were you loving about the podcast and what were things that were really resonating with you. And I just want to say, I can't thank you enough for the amazing reviews you've sent in, for all of you who took the time out of your day to rate the show on Spotify. It means the world to me and to my team that you took the time to do that. And I want to let you know that the more you support this show, the bigger we are able to create it to be, the better guests we can get on, the more resources we have to bring you the information that will help you in your life and in your business. So I want to say thank you for all of our OG listeners. And also, if you are somebody who's maybe pressing play for the first time and you've never listened to the Ambitious podcast, thank you for being here and welcome to the Ambitious family. We're excited to have you. And, with that, today's a good episode because today is something that will be an actionable item. I listen to podcasts day in, day out, and I always find there's a couple different ways they land. Some of them are philosophies, right? They shift your thinking. They make you look at your current life or your current business in a different lens. And then there's some where I'm just like, tell me what to do. Like, I just wish I had like a drill sergeant to be like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And I'm going to be honest, today's a hybrid of both. I'm going to tell you the principles of what and why. And then I'm also going to give you some steps on exactly what you can do to go take your current schedule and start to integrate this. So without further ado, let's just get right into the meat of it, okay? So we're going to start with understanding what are the signs that maybe what we're doing right now is not working. Because I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I first started my business, I didn't have any mindset of a CEO schedule. I was not thinking about, well, how can I be dialed and productive and theme certain days and have start and end times and time blocking and deep work. I was just like, sit down at the computer, get a hot coffee, open the laptop, go to work, finish work, close the laptop. And that was kind of the basis of my schedule. And over the years, I've gone through a lot of different variations of schedule because I've been trying to really figure out, what does work for me, not only lifestyle wise, but productivity wise. And so there were situations that have come up, not only with myself, but also with clients that have been really clear indicators that something schedule wise needs to change. And I want to know, as I list these out, are these maybe something that really land for you and something that you can see yourself in? So first is the fact that you feel like maybe with your schedule right now, you're super reactive. Like you go into work Monday to Friday and it kind of feels like no matter how much you plan your week, you're always putting out fires. You've got a text message ping. You've got, hey, can I meet you on Zoom really quick? I have an email coming in of something that needs me, a Slack that's coming in. And your calendar kind of feels like it's happening to you and not for you. And I've been there. I've had those moments where I felt like I had this perfect plan of my day and then it just went completely left because I had all these fires that came up that adjusted things. And again, in researching and kind of understanding, how do I change this? Like, is this a me problem? Is it a schedule problem? What we actually found, and this was due to a study that was done by a company called Gallup, and they noted that reactive leadership actually is something that reduces the output of the business by 30%. Meaning, if there's fires that are happening in your day, in your week, that you're constantly in this reactive mode, you're feeling like the events that are happening around you are kind of determining your schedule, that ultimately means that you're actually going to reduce the efficiency of your business by operating that way by 30%. So if we think about also, okay, well, what if we didn't do that? That means we have the ability to build that back in, to gain that buffer of 30%, to be 30% more productive, 30% more efficient in our business if we stop operating from this place of being reactive. So first, what I want you to do is go into this and say, okay, well, maybe a sign of why I haven't been seeing things move the way that I want is because I'm not really planning. I'm kind of letting life drive. I'm kind of letting my life be the thing that determines what happens and when it happens. So, what I want to start with is okay, well, how do we tune in and say, am I being reactive? Is the demands of the world and business determine my schedule? If so, that's the first thing we want to look at. The second thing you might see is that when you look at your calendar, so you might want to pull up your Google Calendar or wherever you organize yourself. And I want you to say, looking at this, is this just full of meetings and bookings? Meaning you've got every single element of your calendar packed with someone else who needs your time. a meeting of a client, a meeting of a team member, a team meeting, right? It could be group, it could be one-on-one, but you feel like you're just constantly on calls. Maybe you live on Zoom. Because of this, you probably have no time to think. So you're probably somebody who feels like you really struggle to delegate time for yourself to just be able to process and think and build and plan strategically. You don't maybe have white space in between your meetings, right? You're one of those classic, constant meeting people. And because of that, you're running to pee in between meetings. Or I'm saying this from experience, when I used to be this person, I would literally take my laptop, turn off my microphone, turn off my video, and I would literally go to the washroom with my laptop while sitting in and listening on Zoom because I had such lack of space in between my meetings at that time. And maybe you're somebody because of this that you feel like you start the day, you've got so many calls, so many meetings. And by the time the day is done and you end that last Zoom call, whether it's a one-on-one, a group, a sales call, you finish the day and you feel like you literally got nothing important done. You were so busy, you were packed schedule wise, but yet accomplishment wise, moving the needle wise, being productive wise, you didn't get much done. And there's actually studies that tell us why we do this. And that's because many of us allocate more time than we actually need toward getting things done and often pack more meetings in than necessary. There's a study done that showed that 50% of most business meetings are actually considered unproductive. And I want to share an insight around this because something that I can't remember, there's a psychology principle that's rooted around this. But there is a principle that basically states that your effort will take up the time in which you allocate. So if you are somebody who finds that you're, having meetings of 30 minutes and an hour, I really also want to ask you and have you reflect, does it require an hour, or are you booking it to be an hour because you just believe that's how long that meeting is supposed to take? Are your meetings 20 minutes because they need to be 20 minutes? Or are they 20 minutes because you just have this pre-created booking in your system that's a 20-minute team check-in? These are little things that, while yes, they might seem like a quick change here and a small change there, you think, well, Kate, what kind of big impact is that really going to make? It makes a significant impact because it means that you're right now with your meetings potentially allocating more time and more space than's actually necessary to get the outcome that you're looking to achieve. And so, one thing I want to say is if you're somebody who's in this place of like, my calendar is just full of meetings, I want you to ask yourself, when you even just like pick a day on your calendar and you look at that, is that day really productive? That client you talked to, did they need an hour of your time? Or could they have talked to you for half an hour and you could have got the outcome? That team meeting that you blocked for an hour, did it need an hour to have you go through and discuss? Or could it probably have been achieved if there was better preparation on all parties in 25 minutes? These are opportunities for you to be able to get your time back. And so when someone, I know for a fact with clients and probably with yourself, when you get into this routine of having so many meetings, we kind of get into autopilot. You say things like, well, this is how it always is. It's just another one of these classic weeks that I always have. And just because it's something that you've normalized and that you feel like you've experienced now many times over doesn't mean that it has to stay this way. So if you have a calendar that is packed with meetings, let's use today as an opportunity to say, okay, I don't exactly, as you listen right now, have a plan of exactly how I'm going to remove them all tomorrow, but I'm going to stay open-minded that this could look a little bit different if I want to scale it to the next level. Now, another sign that comes up with anyone who's struggling with their schedule that I see is that whether through your own doing or through your team's feedback, that you are the bottleneck. You are someone that your team is constantly waiting on decisions from you. They're waiting for you to approve stuff. They're waiting for an answer on something. They need the answer to the email, the Loom for you to review, the Slack message for you to dive into. And you constantly remain the bottleneck. And because of that, you're holding up production. You're holding up progress in different areas of the business because people are bottlenecked by you and the lack of hours that you have to provide. And because of this, your growth is slowing down. Because it's not that you don't know what to do. It's not that you're not working on what you need to do to grow the business. It's that you're like, Kate, I just have no time. I know what to do. I have the plans of how I want to do it, but I just genuinely do not have the time to actually get it, whatever it might be, done. And so, because of this, you feel like, which is another big sign, your priorities feel like they're constantly shifting. One day it's like, this is the thing we need to be doing. And then the next day it switches, and now this is the thing that we need to be doing. And because of this, you really struggle to get an understanding of what is the weekly goal? What is the number one needle I need to move in the next 7 days? What's the needle I need to move in the next 30 days? You struggle to really get clarity of what is the focus of what I'm supposed to be working on right now. Because with all these meetings I have to do, or all these alarms that are going off in the business, and then on top of that, I got to post on social, and I got to show up online, and I got to serve my existing clients, I feel like there's no time. How do I prioritize all these things? It feels like there's a never-ending list. And because of this, you kind of chase the urgent things, right? The things that get done are oftentimes things that really have to get done. Not that you're choosing to do, but that if you don't do them, there's going to be a negative impact in some way, whether to a client, to your team, or maybe even to yourself or the business. And because of this, you feel like your goals feel fuzzy. You look back after 7 days and you're like, I had this plan, then I had these fires, then I had these meetings, and then because I had all these other things that came onto my plate, I struggled to know what I needed to do and prioritize and what was urgent. And because of that, I kind of didn't move the needle in anything. Here I am at the end of the week, exhausted, feeling like I didn't see any movement happen. And listen, I'm saying this because I have been there, which is why I know all of these different ways that these show up. And that end piece, which is a huge other sign, is that you feel burnt out and you feel drained by your schedule. And a really easy indicator of this is people on a Thursday who are like, ugh, I can't wait for Saturday. Or maybe you are on Sunday and you're seeing Monday and you're like, okay, here we go. Here we go. And you're trying to get yourself ramped up to go into the week, trying to get mentally prepared and primed to be able to handle the demands that you know are inevitably coming your way. And you often are probably somebody who says that you just have no energy. By mid-afternoon, usually the typical time is around 2 to 3 p.m., you get that midday slump. You get that kind of midday exhaustion where you're like, should I just call it and start again tomorrow? Maybe come back tomorrow. Or maybe you're skipping meals. You're somebody who's feeling like you're just so drained. You didn't get around time to eat. You didn't get around to having something to drink this morning. You didn't really get around to sleeping very well last night. There's just too much to do. And most often, I hear this when people say, Kate, there's just not enough days. There's not enough time in these days. There's just not enough time to get things done. And when you don't have time and you consciously discuss that you don't have time, what I can know for certain is that you are not actively taking time to work on your business. You're working in your business. And this is something that is probably one of, I don't want to ever say there's like one thing, but there's one of the main key indicators that I see with scaling business owners. When they come to me, they're stuck in the weeds. The weeds could be execution, again, the fires of the day to day. It could be client messages. They're stuck in delivery. They're stuck in questions with their team. And you just feel like you're stuck in the weeds and you can't get out. And with that, there's no space. There's no space for innovation. There's no space for planning. There's no space for strategizing the next thing, because you're like, Kate, how can I think about all of these things and all of what I could do to play and to innovate it and these new ideas when I feel like I'm drowning? That doesn't seem like it's very easy. It doesn't feel like it's possible. And so oftentimes when we're in this place of feeling like we're drowning in our schedule, it makes us look at strategic growth and growing our business as more of a luxury than it is actually a default and a necessity. So we start to have, oh, well, that would be nice if I could plan that offer. That'd be nice if I could launch something new. That'd be nice if I could go do XYZ and be on that new marketing platform. But I can't, because I can't due to my calendar. So What I will say is, we actually know from studies, this is from Forbes, that CEOs are known to waste up to 25% of their time, which is insanely valuable, due to poor scheduling practices. So there's actually studies that tell us that many CEOs are losing about a quarter of their time due to not actually having an intentional way in which they schedule their time. So the exciting part about this is, number one, I want you to know you're not alone. There are many entrepreneurs who are starting, and when we first grow these businesses, we're like Bambi on ice and we're trying to figure it all out. So you're not alone. But I also want you to know that if any of the signs or the symptoms that I just outlined to you are like, oof, that feels true. I do feel like I'm stuck in fires and I'm constantly on meetings. And I feel like planning for future goals feels like a nice to do, not possible right now. If some of those things are landing for you, this is an invitation for you to think about the next couple steps I'm going to outline and say, you know what? I'm going to dedicate me and an hour. It could be hiding in your home for an hour somewhere and taking these steps and integrating them. It could be going to a coffee shop and saying, you know what? This Sunday, I'm going to have a little me time. I'm going to go to a coffee shop and I'm going to reset my schedule based off these principles. But here's the thing I want to say. If you take these to heart, you will have a very different experience in business. Because I will tell you, as someone who used to work 6 in the morning till like 1 a.m. and do it all over again the next day, basically 7 days a week, you don't need to be a victim to your schedule in order to grow your business. And most importantly, if you decide that you want to change your schedule and you decide, like, I'm going to do things differently because what I'm doing right now is not working for me, you can have a very different result in your business because of it. You will be more efficient, more productive, and actually generate better outcomes for you, your life, and for your business. So, I'm going to go into the different steps of things that I want you to ask yourself and actions I want you to take. And the first is actually not going to be you going into your Google Calendar. It's not going to be you going in and mapping out any lists or anything yet. I actually want you to first reflect. Because here's the other thing I want to say with schedules. Today, we're not teaching you my schedule. And I'll tell you why. I don't have kids. So if you're listening to this and you have a 6-month-old at home, we have different schedules. If you are listening to this and you have 4 kids at home, we have different schedules. If you are somebody who takes care of an older or a aging parent, we probably have different schedules. Our schedules are a reflection of what's going on in our life and the other factors that are controlling our time. And it would be, frankly, completely tone deaf of me to be like, hey, here's my schedule as a 32-year-old, no kids, lives alone entrepreneur. Who wants that? That doesn't fit for you. And it's not about me giving you my blueprint. I will give you examples of what I do, but that doesn't mean that what I'm going to say, what I do for my schedule, should be what fits for you. I'm going to teach you the principles of how to look at your calendar, your schedule based off your life, because that's how we're going to get you success. And this is an invitation too, that if you're seeing anybody on the internet who's like, this is how I use my time, this is how I use my time, take the principle, not the tactic. Meaning, just because they get up at 4 a.m. doesn't mean you have to get up at 4 a.m. I don't get up at 4 a.m. But it means that if for whatever reason, getting up at 4 a.m. is the best thing that you can do for your schedule, and that happens to be the time that makes most sense, amazing. It, most importantly, is for you. So the first thing we have to do is we have to reflect on our schedule. Not what's right or wrong or what we've been told to do, but our schedule. So what I want you to do is I want you to just track your time for 2 to 3 days. And if you want to be like an A+ student, do it for 5 full days, Monday to Friday. Okay. And in this, I want you to analyze a couple core things. Number one, where is your time actually going? And I will say, I'm somebody who's like a notorious Google Calendar weirdo. Like my entire life is on Google Calendar. And the cool part about Google Calendar that I really like is the fact that it actually does do a time assessment for you each week. So for me, I have different tabs on my Google Calendar. So some are for clients, some are for team. Everything is kind of color coded. And the reason I do the color coding is it also shows me on the left-hand side on Google Calendar where my time went. I spent 10% of my time with my team this week. I spent 30% of my time, doing deep work. I spent this amount of time on marketing. You can see where all your time is being allocated, which is a really, really beneficial feature, especially when it comes to step one, which is actually auditing your time and where is it going. So, what I want you to do in this first, again, 2 to 3 day reflection, and for those A+ students, the 5-day reflection, is I want you to just decide that for 5 days, not 5 months, not 5 weeks, 5 days or 3 days, you're going to schedule your calendar and really get a conscious awareness of what did you do today? Where did you spend your time and what are you working on? This is important because this really is going to get us a better understanding of the facts of your time versus how you feel your time's being used. And I talk to a lot of business owners who are like, I feel like I have no time. I feel this, I feel that. And I want to know how you feel. I want to know how your schedule's making you feel. But I also want to know, great, but what are the facts of the situation? And oftentimes when I run through people's calendar or when I start to even build them the calendar that they want, we come to realize there actually is potentially some time here that you felt was getting used that's not being used, in the sense of you felt like you had no free space and I discovered you do have free space. Or there are people who come to me and say, Kate, I feel like I just can't breathe. I feel like I don't get a second. And when I have them actually intentionally track their time for 3 to 5 days, we come to find out, yeah, guess what? You're right. You have so much that's not on your radar. And that's why when you look at your schedule, you see planned 5 hours, but your actual workload is 9 hours. And that's why you feel like you can't breathe, because in fact, there is no breathing room. So you're right. How you're feeling is backed by facts. So now we know what we need to know to be able to change it. So it starts with reflection. Where's your time going? In that assessment, when you really outline all the things you do in these 2 to 3 days, and again, max 5 days. When you're looking at this, I want you to say, okay, well, in all the things I have here, what about this drains me? And I had a client who came to me and they were so frustrated with their calendar. Like they were just like, I felt like my schedule was killing me. And what was interesting was everything on the schedule was actually a non-issue for her. She didn't feel that any of it needed to go except her very long one-on-one meetings with clients. She felt like she was constantly on the phone with clients. And as a result, she was talking about the same things over and over and over again, and thought, okay, well, like, do I need to have all these meetings? Is there a way for me to streamline these down? And so we realized it wasn't the entire schedule that was draining her. It was actually these specific types of meetings that were the main culprit of what was draining her. Now, on the contrast, we also want to reflect and say, okay, well, what here excites me? So when you look at your schedule, which part of it are you excited by? Do you get excited to go on group calls? Do you get excited to go on team meetings? Do you get excited to make marketing? What part of your schedule really activates you and fuels you? And maybe it's not even something strategic. Maybe it's something like a midday walk that you go on, and you go for this walk from 12 till 1 every day. And that's the core thing that really amps up and gets you energized in the day. You know better than me. So ask yourself, what is the thing in my schedule each day and in these 3 to 5 days that I'm reflecting on that really excites me and gets me energized? And most importantly, if you look at these 3 to 5 days, I want you to ask yourself, what in my schedule actually moved the needle? So in the last 3 to 5 days, what really generated movement, results, and momentum in my business? The best thing that I ever learned as an entrepreneur was that 80% of the results that you're going to see in your business today, or that you will eventually see in your business, are going to come from 20% of the effort you're putting in right now. Meaning, the inputs in your business, right? If we're putting all this action in, 20% of the things you're doing right now are the actual reason that 80% of the results you're seeing are happening. And on the contrast, 20% of what you're going to do is going to be the cause of why 80% of the success is going to happen. Meaning, if you feel like you're not seeing momentum, if you feel like you're maybe in a tough season right now, this is also an invitation to say more is not always going to generate more. you might actually achieve the most amount of results from 20% of the things that you're focusing on right now. So it means less, and focusing on the needle mover is actually the most important. So we can use tools, for example, like Clockify and Toggle and all these different apps if you want to track your time. But what I really want to do is I want to get eyes and facts and understanding of the current state before we change anything. We need facts of what's happening to know what needs to be adjusted. So, this is the same when you think about any goal, right? When you're somebody, for example, who's trying to get fit and they say, okay, well, how much protein are you eating? You go, I don't know. I eat, a chicken breast at lunch and a chicken breast for dinner. And they'll say, okay, great. Well, what I want you to do is I want you to track your food. I want you to note down what you're eating for 2 weeks. And once we have that, then we're going to build your new meal plan from that. The same thing is true when it comes to your schedule. You need to have an understanding of what is the current state before you should ever consider putting in a new approach. So, step 2 is, now that we have an understanding of where you've been, we want to look at, okay, well, what is the new vision, right? So, we know what's not working. We know what's draining us. We know what's moving the needle and not really moving the needle. So, where do we want to go? Step 2 is really looking at, what are your actual CEO priorities? And the thing I want to say is that every single business owner needs to know where your role is most important. Meaning, where, if you have effort in your day, is your effort the most essential? For me, my effort being in any area of the business needs to be, number one, supporting my team and anything that they're doing, and two, in my marketing. I need to be in my marketing consistently and basically all over to make sure that my face, because it requires my face and my voice, just like today, I need to make sure that I'm prioritizing recording for you. I need to make sure that I'm prioritizing, doing a photo shoot or having a meeting about marketing, because that's something that is a core role for me in my business. Now, for some other people, it might be the fact that your core role is the fact that you're in client relationships. You need to be in communication with the clients, because when you're in communication with the clients, that's typically something that helps your business to maintain and move the needle. For other people, it might be that you're all vision and leadership. You're all super high level in the business. You have a person to do everything, and you are the quarterback. You're the person that each week needs to have dedicated time toward being the quarterback of all the other players. This is especially true in people that have agencies. So, what we want to look at is understanding, what is our role. And again, this kind of goes back to the fires aspect, because if we don't know what our role is, we can't quite create bumper lanes on how to make sure that we're staying within that role. So, the thing that I look at is, usually most business owners have anywhere around 3 or so core roles that are really important. For me, I am the head of our delivery, meaning any resources we make, trainings we do, calendars of support for clients, all of that is coordinated by me. 2, I'm somebody who also is definitely head of our marketing, and I work alongside our marketing team to make sure that they have everything they need for copy and media, and we come up with ideas together and we brainstorm. And then I also am somebody who headlines sales. As a past closer, I'm somebody who always is looking at, what are the sales of the business? Where are we going? What do we need? I'm looking at the data, and I make sure that I'm constantly, every week, what do my clients need? What do the offers need? 2, what does the marketing need? 3, what do the sales need? Now, I have help with integrating those, but those are still my core roles around making sure that my team has what they need in those areas to be able to generate the outcomes we want. So, with yourself, you want to actually ask yourself, what is the highest value of your time? Meaning, if you are going to have 5 hours in the business this week, and you only had 5 hours to move the needle in your business, what areas would you go into and why? And it's really important that we know this, because otherwise we can go in and find ourselves in every area of the business all the time. And that's because we don't really have a core section of the business that we know we're most impactful. You have a skill set right now. You have a mindset. You have a specific understanding of your business in a way that nobody else does. And so it's really important that if you are a core needle mover in a certain area, that you maintain that you lean into that consistently. And so the thing I also want to say is that, even with other people with their schedules, we recognize that for the most successful CEOs, they also had this trend. So again, as I name these CEOs, by the way, we're not going to talk about them personally. We're just going to talk about them schedule wise. So example being Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos schedules all of his most important meetings to always happen before lunch. And that's because he's at his peak mental energy and he is known as the core decision maker. So his role in his day is he's meant to be there to facilitate his decisions and to help to dial in those decisions and get the most out of those. He books all of them in the peak of when his energy is the highest, which is the morning. So we're having aspects here of knowing what his role is and knowing what his biggest impact is in the business, paired with how he can schedule that to be intentional and most supportive for everybody. Right? So for you, it might even be if you are someone who's team coordination, maybe you need to be scheduling your team check-ins to be the first thing that you do in the morning. So your team has all the rest of their marching orders for the rest of the day. This really means, for me, I need to make sure that my priority each week is making sure that our socials are good and that our podcast is good. It's one of the first questions I ask every single Monday on our team meeting. Where are we at with socials? Where are we at with podcast? Where are we at with socials? Where are we at with podcast? And it's because for me, it's a top priority knowing that I am someone who always has the eyes on marketing. I want to say, where are we at? Where are we at constantly? So, what you want to ask yourself is, what are those core things that you need to be doing? And oftentimes, when we don't know these, the ability to get tied into the busy work, getting tied into things that we could do, even though we shouldn't be doing them. And again, comes back to that classic quote you guys have always heard me say, which is just because you could doesn't mean you should. Just because you could be in a certain area and behind the scenes and systems and all these things doesn't mean that you should be there because it might not actually be the thing that the business needs. Now, once we know what our core areas are, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing those, that those are the emphasis of our week, that we are always focusing on the things that need me to move the needle. But then comes up, okay, well, people always ask me, Kate, how do I actually structure my week? How do I actually structure my time? Do I have, Mondays and Fridays off? Do I work 2 days a week? Do I work 5 days a week? And the short answer to this is the fact that you really should do it based off of what feels best for you. So if you are somebody who feels like you are someone who needs to kind of slowly get into your week, you don't love having tons of stuff out the gate on Mondays, then you might want to structure it that way. If you need to, for example, I work with a lot of parents, and because of that, they need to be done by 3 o'clock to go pick up their kids at 3:30. Like that is just how your schedule will be formed. So the step 3 is really actually understanding how you can structure your week around your focus areas being something that you prioritize. So I'm not going to say that it's a matter of certain days, certain time hours. And I'll kind of add a comment to this in a second. What I want you to look at is in your week, are you planning time to focus on the needle movers? So for me, it might be, am I planning time aside to record this podcast? Am I planning time aside to have a team meeting to make sure my team has what they need? Am I allocating time to the areas that I am needed to keep the needle moving in the business? So if your core needle mover is that you're really the face of marketing, do you have time dedicated in a day, in a couple days, in a week that is specific to your marketing? And I will be just really direct with you. I've had people who've come to me and said, I just feel like things are not moving in the business. And I would go in to do the audit and listen, like, you need to know right now, you work with me, there's no stone that's not allowed to be turned over. If I want to go and investigate, I'm going to ask you the questions I'm asking right now. And there was a client who came to me and she said, it's just like, this is not happening and that's not happening with the marketing. It's just so hard. And I said, great, show me your schedule. And she's like, my schedule? No, I'm saying my marketing. There's just no time to film. And I was like, yeah, show me your schedule. So she showed me her schedule. And I remember looking at it and saying, where's the time in the schedule for filming? Where's the time in the schedule? You want to have a podcast, but you never dedicated time in your week to having a podcast. You have all these goals for marketing, but you've dedicated no time in your week to market. And then we're wondering why we don't have the marketing results that we want to have. So oftentimes this starts truly with productivity in your schedule and saying, okay, well, if you're the core needle mover, like no one else can record this podcast for me. I guess they could, but it'd be a little weird, right? No one else can record this podcast for me. So it means that I need to make it a priority in my scheduling to make sure that you have what I've promised to you, which is a weekly, sometimes twice a week episode. So it's making sure you've allocated the time. So an example of this being, let's just say a theme. So Monday, it could be all strategy and planning, looking at the big picture of the business. Tuesday, we're going to go deep work, which means things that really move the needle in the next 3 to 6 months, not in the next like day, and also content creation. Wednesday, we're going to be on meetings. We're in the meeting bucket. We're going to be really, really focused on all things meetings. Then Thursday, we're going to do all things sales, do prepping of maybe any funnels, a webinar, promotions, anything along that line. And Friday, we're going to leave as much open space as possible to clear up the loose ends of the rest of the week. Right? So the thing that I will say with the theme days, this is actually something that the ex-CEO, Jack Dorsey of Twitter does. So he has theme-based days. For example, Mondays are management and Tuesdays are always about the product development. So I will say this step 3 of theming out your week based off the areas that you have core needle movers has been an absolute game changer for me. And in this moment, I'm going to take a second to kind of share what I do for my schedule, because this is really one of the core principles that's been a game changer. First, I have what's considered to be A and B weeks. So technically speaking, I'm only on front-facing calls with anybody. So networking calls, sales calls, meetings, client meetings, group calls, anything that requires my face and my voice. Technically speaking, every month, if everything goes perfectly to plan, which again, I'm saying technically because it's not perfect. I have adjustments I need to make once in a while, just as much as anybody else. But generally, I've structured my schedule to be that I'm on calls 6 days a month. So week A, 3 days. So the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Week B, no calls. Week C, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday calls. Week D, no calls. So I have what's considered to be A and B weeks. And what that means is I have 1 week that's considered my quote unquote on, and I have another week that's considered my quote unquote off week. Now I'm going to tell you how I maintain these themes. So that's theme number 1 is I actually theme my weeks, not only my days. I theme my weeks. I have a week where I'm in the business and I have a week where I'm working on the business. Structuring my schedule this way, I've been doing it for years, and it is something that I will say has really helped for me. And this is most important for me, but I just want to give an insight and example of this. It's really helped me because I am someone, task switching is just awful for me. I don't want to in a day do client stuff and content and podcasts and team meetings. I just want to have a singularity of focus. I operate and have really good productivity doing that. And there's actually studies to show that task switching and actually focusing on different areas all over of the business in a day, for some people, has the ability to decrease productivity by 40%. It's significant. So for me, I went to the extreme and said, okay, well, I'm going to have an on week and an off week, which means generally, fact wise, half my month is in the business and half my month is outside the business. So I spend about equal time in it to outside of it. Or I should say, on my on week, meaning when I'm on calls, it's 3 days a week. So even less than half, probably closer to around 30%. So that was step 1. And then when it comes to those 2 weeks, you might think, okay, well, what does that look like for you, Kate? Well, on the weeks that I'm quote unquote working in the business, meaning in the weeds, I'm face to face with team, I'm on, meetings with clients, things like that. When those things happen, I really during that still have theme days. So my Monday is a CEO day. It's a day where I don't have meetings with clients. I don't have anything on the calendar. It's pretty open. It's mainly for me to do deep work, to work on things that are going to be happening that week, get my team whatever they might need, helping to move the needle. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday that week, as I said, I will do, client one-on-ones, sales calls, group calls, private clients, client feedback. All of that is something that would happen there on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday again is a CEO day. So that's my quote unquote busy week, is 3 full 8-hour days of work On the Monday and Friday, it's kind of solo time. If I choose to fill it, I can, but I don't have to. On my other week, there really is basically no meetings. It's probably 2 hours worth of meetings the entire week. And that is a time for me to plan launches, it's to plan new offer development, it's to plan things for this podcast and its growth. It's just about future planning and developing the business and looking at where we can take it and what we can create next, how we can continue to grow. It's no longer I'm stuck in the fire. It's not any longer the alarms that are going off with anything. It is just me, headphones, laptop, focusing on growth and scaling. And so the theming of my weeks was step one, but the theming of the days is really important. So for you, this might look like, okay, maybe you have a time or a day where you're very team focused, and then you have days where you're client focused. And I want to say, I've had people say, well, Kate, what do I do? Because I have these meetings with clients and they're all over. I've had clients who've switched to this model. They've said to clients, hey, I'm so sorry. I actually can't take a call on the Tuesday. Can we move our calls moving forward to Wednesdays instead? And the clients that have gotten into this rhythm have actually now started to see, okay, great. I feel like I'm like all in with clients, and then I'm all in with marketing, and then I'm all in with sales. And they're starting to see the flow and the synergy that's starting to take place. The themes are really an important thing because what they do is they help us to get into a certain mode of operating that allow us to be super, super productive in the thing that we're working on. So, what I will say is if you're someone who's looking at your schedule, what I want you to look at is your actual themes. Do you have like minded tasks together? Now, this doesn't have to be that you're all in again on working in the business versus on it. It just means we want to group like minded things together. Have a day that's mainly focused on marketing. Have some days that are mainly focused on delivery or meetings. Have a day that's really focused on deep work and you not having to have a lot of conversation, but just having time to really strategically plan the business. And listen, this is not going to happen overnight. So I want to set expectations. This can be something that maybe is going to take you 4 weeks, 6 weeks to start to integrate. It might mean having a conversation with clients and saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I actually have to shift when our call is. Right? Like these are things that you can take as an awareness right now. And with each new client you onboard, you can put them in this model. And you also, with past existing clients, can invite them toward this model as well. I've had this model, as I said, for years, and I've had many clients who've been adapted to this. Now, a question I get with this as well, because I get a lot of questions about my schedule with clients. Someone says to me, well, Kate, what do you do if someone wants a meeting on a Monday? And my direct answer would be, I say no. And that's because they said, well, Kate, what if the person knows that you're not doing anything? I said, that's the problem. It's not that I'm not doing anything. Your mindset being that if you're not on with clients, oh, I'm free, I'm not doing anything. No, you are doing something. You're building your business. And something I see with schedule is that a lot of people, especially service providers or anyone who's a coach, a consultant, done for you service, an agency, you will put your clients on this pedestal that anything they want or say or request comes before your business. And I'm going to be honest, 9 times out of 10, your business is showing signs of that behavior. Signs in the lack of marketing happening, signs in the lack of sales that are happening, right? So, this is something that is an invitation for you to realize that your schedule and how much you are planning around your business and prioritizing you is just as important as clients. So, when someone says to me, I'd love to have a call on a Monday, again, if someone's in an emergency, different story, right? If they really need a call and I've triaged and I realize they really need it, of course I'll take it. But if it's just, I'd like to have a Monday call, I'd like to have a call with you Friday afternoon, no. And that's because it's not that I couldn't take it, it's that I shouldn't take it because I'm working on my business and I'm having boundaries. And many of us struggle because we think if we have boundaries, we're going to lose clients. What if the client's not okay with that? I will tell you, I have enforced these boundaries for years, and I've never had a client who says, you're not available enough. You can't get on the phone with me quick enough. I structure all of the things that I do in the business around this. So I want you to know it can really help you. So again, theming out your weeks, theming out the things that you're doing. Now, you also want to have an understanding of the day schedule, which is step 4, giving yourself bumper lanes. giving yourself an understanding of the actual structure of your day. So AM, midday, and PM. The thing I want to say is the most important thing you can do for your calendar visually is give yourself bumper lanes. So what I do is I literally have a block on my calendar. One of them starts at 10 a.m. and the other one starts at 5:30. Okay, so I technically work from 10 till 5:30. Okay, that's my typical day, and I have like a longer lunch in between. I have lunch, I walk my dogs, all of that. The bumper lanes are really important because they are in red on my calendar, and you will see no bookings above them, which means nothing in the morning and nothing in the evening. My day will never start before 10 a.m. on a meeting with anybody, and I will never go on a meeting with anyone past 5:30. Those are the bumper lanes, the non-negotiable structure of my day. So what it tells me is that if I can't fit what I need to fit in my workday in those blocks between the 10 and the 5 or 5:30, something about my business has to change immediately because it means that it doesn't actually fit the structure of what I've planned to be my day. And this is actually something that I saw actually on a TikTok of the CEO of Netflix talking about. And he was talking about the fact that in all the years working at Netflix, he never missed a Tuesday date night with his wife. And their date night was every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And he had to leave the office at 5:30. He said, if someone was coming to me with a massive fire and alarm at 5:15, you better walk with me to my car because I'm not missing date night with my wife. And I will tell you, many times business pulls us in a million different directions. It makes us feel like we have to do this. And if we don't do this, the business will go under and all these things will happen. That's a choice. You're going to either choose to use your personal time to build the business, or you're going to choose to structure the business differently in order to make it work within the boundaries you've created. And I especially see this with moms. And anyone who's listening to this who's a mom, you know what I'm talking about. You felt like before kids, you had no time. You're like, oh my God, there's not enough hours in a day. And now all of a sudden, you're somehow running your business. And you know what I'm talking about. You're like, yep, I'm running my business. And before I had like 9 hours and now I have 4 hours and I know I don't have a second more. When I close that laptop, kids come home from school, it's playtime, homework, dinner, bath time, bedtime. Like you're packed. You don't have time later. And what ends up happening, and the real reason that moms are extremely productive when it comes to being business owners, is because they learn how to really, with force, typically by having a child, they realize they don't have as much time in a day. They got to make it work. And so, guess what? They do. And so, the same thing is true for anybody who doesn't have kids. You have the ability to get more done in a certain block of a day if you put restraints on it, if you put a container around it. So, I have this container because I know that I want to try to train myself to have a very specific schedule. I want to train myself when I have kids. What I will do, my plan is that I will literally bump my schedule up by 2 hours. And I'll probably take a couple hours, obviously, out of my schedule that exists right now, but I will bump it up. So I will be done at 3. One thing that is really important to me is that I want to be able to pick my kids up from school every day. And guess what? I have peers that have multiple 7-figure businesses every day. They're sitting outside of school waiting to pick up their kids. You choose what your priorities are and you should build your schedule around it. So bumper lanes are really important. And with this, inside the bumper lanes, meaning you're going to create this container around your calendar and your schedule. But inside of there, you also want to create blocks for priorities. So with this, the blocks for priorities, you can, for example, have the first part of your morning tackling the things that are the most important. If you know that you're somebody toward the end of the day who's got no energy and you feel like you just get zonked, then okay, great. Schedule yourself around that. Also, if you know that on Fridays, you kind of like to have a chill day, you feel like you've got no energy by the end of the week, don't make that your marketing day. That might mean that being your marketing day means you're kind of not really getting the marketing done. Okay, well, great. Well, why don't we adjust it and we'll optimize it then? So, creating number 4 is blocking your time and having themed out days of what you're doing, but also theming out your time. And so, I'll give you quick instructions here. Number 1 in blocking out your time, create the bumper lanes in your schedule. Create a hard start of your day. This is when I kick off, and a hard stop. Everything has to fit inside of that. 2, you're not going to book in work first. You're going to book in your breaks first. So I don't want you putting anything business in your calendar until you've put in something that is personal in your calendar. Getting your lunch in your calendar, this whole idea of we're not going to eat, you cannot be a high performance athlete slash CEO, which is basically what you are, is you are a business athlete without eating and fueling your body. You need to put in breaks for get out in the sun, go for a 2-minute, 5-minute walk, get your body and your state changed to be able to go into the next wave of business. Block off time in the middle of your day to be able to have lunch, maybe go for a walk, whatever it might be. Block in that time for you. Structure the rest of the business around it. If all the business requires everything that you value to go to the side, it means there's a problem with your business, not with your schedule. Okay? So something that I will also share, and again, we're not going to share our personal insights around him, but more just the insights around his business sense. Elon Musk does this. He actually analyzes his schedule in 5-minute blocks, and his entire schedule is built with precision because it's basically looking at how can I get all of the things that I need to get done in a day without necessarily having to have more time. And so the reason he does 5-minute blocks is because he's constantly looking at, is there a way that I'm wasting time? So many of us just pre-allocate, I need to film. I used to do this even with the podcast. I have to film a podcast. I'm going to block off 90 minutes just in case. Well, guess what my brain's doing? My brain is saying, I'm going to give you 90 minutes to do this podcast. No, you get 60 minutes. Start to finish, you get 60 minutes. Put yourself literally as I record these episodes, I have a timer going in the background on the platform I record on, and it's telling me how long it is. Great, 60 minutes. That's how much I get. So this is an opportunity for you to be able to give yourself structure and say, how much am I going to allocate to this? How much does it need me to allocate? And also, how can I put some structure around the time of my schedule? Now, the thing that's also really important, again, in this, you'll note that I said put in your breaks first. Also, really important in your schedule is making sure you're literally putting in recovery and adding in additional margin for you to rest and to build up energy. I used to have this idea that I, could just operate without any break. I was like, okay, like meeting, and I would just go. And my body paid for it. And truthfully, my results in the business paid for it. I would go call to call to call to call. And it was only once I started to integrate some space in between that I actually started to realize the impact of what that space was generating for me. I realized that having back to back to back sales calls or meetings, while I thought would be productive, efficient, hash them out, when I started to take even a 10-minute break in between, go get my face in the sun, go for a walk outside, go do something in between and resetting my energy, that completely changed the way that I was able to show up within those calls and also with my clients. So, scheduling space to think, to process, to catch up. I also see this with people who have, meetings. They'll have, a day full of meetings, but you never booked in any time to take notes. You never booked time to send the Slack message follow up. You never booked in time in any way to follow up on those meetings. And because of that, you now don't have any capacity to do it. So what happens? It happens at the end of the day, and now you're over your hours of when you wanted to be working. Again, it's not an issue with necessarily the business, but the fact that there was an added space put in there that needed to be there for you to get the outcomes you want. And so this also applies, by the way, when you're not working. Planning, for example, maybe your mornings or your evening routine, right? Like looking at where am I building in my recovery? So again, I'll give you an example. I get up every single day at 7, but I never work at all until 10. And so 7 till 10 are my hours to go for a walk, to do red light, to shower, to get ready, to have breakfast, to do whatever it is that I want to do. And also my day is done at 5:00, 5:30, but I don't go to bed until 10:30. So I have a whole other span of 5 hours in the evening that I can do whatever I want for my recovery. Again, could be going for a walk, could go to bed early, could have a hot bath, could see a friend, could read a book. But it means that it doesn't need to be full to mean that I should stop working. You also want to remember that if your business takes from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you go to sleep to be able to function, it's not really a business that you control anymore. It's controlling you. And this is a way for you to take that power back. So an example as well, Tim Cook, a really famous entrepreneur, starts his day at 4 a.m. and his whole thing is he does not touch his email or do anything until he's gone through his gym and workout routine. Until his routine in the morning is done, he will never touch a single email. Oprah always every single day talks about the fact that she's got meditation, gratitude, and exercise as the three core pillars of her morning routine that are essential before she ever goes and kind of connects with the world in the business sense. So we're seeing here that there's this aspect of prioritizing of recovery. It could be in the morning and it could be in the evening. I will be honest and just totally transparent. I was someone who really did not prioritize recovery for many years in my business. I would be that notorious person at 11 o'clock at night who was still in Slack. I'd be still kind of, on Instagram answering DMs. Like I was just always on. And it was only once I started to create really aggressive boundaries with the business to not be working super late at night that I actually have never been more energized and productive during the hours in which I'm working on the business. And that's because I'm taking hours outside of the business to actually recharge, outside of the business to get me and my energy to a place that it needs to be at to help me to perform in the business the way that I need to. So, number 6 is also looking at with your schedule and all the things you've got. Potentially, is there an opportunity here to delegate? And, Sheryl Sandberg, who is actually the head of Meta at one point, focuses on only what she can do being in her schedule, and everything else that's on her schedule that doesn't need to be done by her is delegated. And this is the other thing, it really is looking at what can be automated in my business, what can be outsourced, what can be dropped. And one of the ones that was an aha moment for me, and it's kind of not a typical one because it's not like you're going to hire a VA or any of the typical recommendations. I used to work Monday to Friday, and on Saturdays I would clean the house, and Sundays I would food prep. And I remember for me growing up, I never had anybody in our house who would help us with cleaning. So I didn't really ever, it wasn't like a normalized thing growing up that I was around. And so I remember always thinking like, well, like I can quickly clean my house. Like, of course, it probably, yeah, it took me like 5 hours to do the laundry and, do the dishes and clean up the fridge and all these things. But what I realized was, okay, that's 5 hours. That's 5 hours. And so when I started to think about delegating it, i.e., I have an incredible woman who helps me and comes to the house now and helps with cleaning. But what I realized was, okay, well, if I'm going to hire somebody, like, am I going to work then? I have to go make money, obviously. I'm not just going to sit. Of course, you're going to sit. And this is going to sound really, for most people, like, okay, but you're meaning I'm going to pay somebody to help me in the business and then I'm going to use that time to rest? Yes, exactly. Because it meant for me that I wasn't really ever getting true downtime. I wasn't ever getting true rest in any way. And I originally was looking at what do I need to outsource, as in like hiring a VA, hiring a team member. But what I realized was I was taking 5 hours on the weekend to do things at home that I could pay somebody to come to my home and help me and support me. And that's part of their business. And during that time, I didn't need to work. I didn't need to fit with anything. I just needed to rest so I could perform in the rest of the time that I needed to show up in the business. And she's been now being it's like I feel like she's like part of my little family now. I love her to pieces. She's been a massive support for me in the last couple of years. I wouldn't have gotten through what I've gotten through without her. She's come and really like saved the day so many times. And that's because I was pushing so much that I needed space to recoup. And it's looking at, can you delegate things that don't have to be done by you? And here's the thing that I had to change my mindset is like, it's not that you can't do them or that you couldn't do them. Cause like I could clean my house on a Saturday. There's no reason I couldn't. But I had to look at what's going to be the most supportive for me to help me to lean into the business and be able to have the energy and the capacity in the ways that I need to. And maybe, I was talking to a mom a day ago and she's like, you know what, Kate, on Fridays, I get a half day babysitter and I go to a coffee shop and I sit on my laptop. And that for her is a structure of delegation that, yes, it's not hiring a VA or an agency, but it's getting support in a way that feels like it would be supportive for you. And that's the most important thing here is to make sure that whatever you delegate is something that would really help to take pressure off of your plate. So look at asking yourself, what can I automate? What can be outsourced? What can be dropped? And this can be everything from, looking at $10 an hour as a task all the way up to $1,000 an hour, right? Like it's looking at in there, when I filter through all these different hour variables, right? So like for me, in my business, I sell typically an hour of my time at just over $1,000 an hour. So when I started to look at my schedule, I thought, okay, well, if something doesn't need me to do it or it's not valued at $1,000 an hour, that's something that I should be aiming to delegate, to outsource, to get support with. So again, as we mentioned earlier, we can be in those areas where we really move the needle in the business, where we really helped to keep things growing and to keep things scaling. And now the last piece I want to say, which is step 7, is setting out your schedule, right? So say you figure out what your themes are, you've got your start and your end time, you theme your days or your week, you get your time blocks, you get your rest and recovery built in there. Maybe you outsource, delegate, and automate some things. This is not a set it and forget it. Something that's important that many people don't do is actually reflecting on your week. Reflect on, how did it go? Did you get what you wanted to get done? Did you feel like the structure that you established worked well? Do you feel like you need to adjust something because something is clearly not clicking for you? Do you feel like there was things that needed to be shifted that you needed more time for that you didn't have time for? Like, setting your schedule, one of the best things that you can do is reevaluate and say, is the schedule that I used to have supporting me any longer? And what I've realized is my schedule has changed 10 times over because I, in the evolution of the business, have changed over and over. So as I develop, as my role develops in the business, my schedule needs to develop along with it. Or maybe for you, if your life is developing, you were before, maybe you had no kids and now you're starting a family, your schedule is going to adapt. So trying to hang on to this way that it used to be is not serving you any longer. You want to look at instead, how can I adapt to a new schedule that's going to be supportive for me today? And the important thing to do is to look at the end of the week. So, what I do is on Fridays, I look back at the week. I look at my schedule, which is basically the intention of what I wanted to have done. I look at the start of the week, what I intended to do. At the end of the week, I look at what got achieved, what fires came up, what caused me to take more time, what worked really well, what didn't, where did I feel like I didn't allocate enough time and I probably should have, what surprises came up. And I can structure the rest of my week or month or any future planning based off that reflection. So, this is all an opportunity for us to get an understanding of what is working, what is not, and really dial in a unique custom strategy for us and our schedules. The thing we know today is that there really are 7 different areas of dialing in your schedule. And we talked about the signs of, opportunities of where you might need to check in with yourself and say, is what I'm doing right now working for me? Or is there an opportunity for me to really get more intentional with my schedule? The thing that I will tell you is, of all the research that I've done, not only for myself, but also for today, is that there are so many CEOs. If you want to go on AI and chat GPT or whatever and research all different types of successful CEOs, you will see a common denominator. And it is this classic thing that they all say, oh, well, we all have the same hours in a day. The reality is, yes, some people like an Elon Musk are going to have a heck of a lot more money to get things done in a certain way during those hours. That's not something that I'm going to remove as an idea of a massive impact around our hours. But the thing we want to remember is, though, that wasn't always the case. Every entrepreneur had to bootstrap to get to a certain level of success. Every entrepreneur had to do certain things and make certain decisions along the way and keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting their calendar to have the calendar and schedule they have be the thing that helped them to scale. So today's an invitation for you to say, just because you've always done it doesn't mean you should continue to do it. And use this as an opportunity to just get curious. This isn't about saying throw the old schedule in the trash and throw this new one in here. It's about saying, who do I want to be? What's the kind of business I want to have? And what do I need to make happen in order to have that kind of business, in order to have those sorts of outcomes, in order to be that person? And if you are someone who feels like you're struggling to scale your business right now, and you feel like there's never enough time, please let this be an invitation for you. My homework for you would be, go take an hour. That's all I want you to do. Take an hour. And I want you to go through these 7 steps, and I want you to pull up your Google Calendar or wherever you plan your life. And if it's in a journal type calendar, okay, amazing. Get your highlighters out. And I want you to really sit down and take a moment to set intention. When life is a tilt-a-whirl and it's going a million miles a minute, it can be very easy to fall and just kind of end up in the passenger seat of wherever the schedule takes you is where you end up. And if that's how you're feeling right now, I've been there. And I also want you to know that just taking even a half an hour to an hour of time aside for yourself to really set intention for how you want to do things moving forward, and maybe picking one of the 7 steps today to start to integrate, that alone will help you to see some change in momentum. And as I said, I've done a lot of these schedule things for myself and also for our clients. And what I will tell you is they don't take a very long time, but they do take intention. You can see a very big change in your productivity and schedule within like 4 weeks. But it does take some conversations potentially with clients, maybe with team, maybe boundaries with the business. Could be again saying, hey, partner, I want to have date nights on Tuesday, like the CEO of Netflix, right? Thinking about what could I integrate from this that will really help me to have the business I want. The quote that you guys have heard us say on this show, and this was from George Bryant, who shared this on an episode, was that you don't have the business you want because you haven't become the person to run it. And let today be an invitation for you to master the schedule you want to have the business that you want to have. You and I both are working 5 days a week, most likely, 3 days a week if you're working, right? So whatever the days are, I can find you another woman who's working the same amount of days. If she has the same situation as you, same amount of kids, same amount of time, same amount of schedule hours in a day, and she's getting things done, it means that we have an opportunity to refine. We have an opportunity to dial things in to give you an even better opportunity to scale. So what I will say is, if you are somebody who has not yet joined our Ambitious Network, what are you doing? Our Ambitious Network is an incredible community of women who listen to this podcast, who are, just as the name sounds, ambitious women who are extremely driven and are going for big things in their life and in their business. We'd love to see you inside. If you head to the show notes of this episode, wherever you're listening or watching, you will see a link to join us in the community. We have all kinds of things from, resources and all kinds of stuff, but we'd love to see you inside. And with all that being said, if you've been listening today and you've had some aha moments, a light bulb, a download, I would love for you to just slide into my DMs. Just message me, Kate Perkovic on Instagram. I would love to hear from you and just love to hear what downloaded for you. What's maybe one change that you're excited to put into your schedule? I always talk about the fact that one of the things that changed my life was being witnessed in transformation and having people witness me in my growth. And so let this be an opportunity for you to be witnessed in your growth today. To message me and say, okay, great. Kate, I listened to the schedule episode. This is what I'm doing in my schedule. I'm holding myself to it. Okay, great. Let me be your day of accountability partner. Let's make sure that we get you the change that you deserve for your life and business. So all of that being said, friends, thanks so much for spending the last hour with me. I love you guys. Please be sure, it always helps our show if you can, to leave a rating on Spotify and a review. It would mean the world to me. And as always, stay ambitious.